I lost my grandmother's apartment, the place I grew up in, the only home that ever felt safe, because my sister forged a medical document saying I was a drug addict. Just like that, she got the will changed. No one believed me, not even Mom. But what she didn't know is, I had been recording our calls for years, and the right one was about to blow her world apart. My name's Rachel. I'm 28, live in Pittsburgh, and I've always been the quiet one in the family. Straight A's, teacher's assistant, no drama. My sister Amber? The opposite. Life of the party, Instagram influencer, all smoke and mirrors. Growing up, we were raised by Grandma Helen, a tough but loving woman who basically saved us after Dad left and Mom spiraled. Helen was my anchor, my real mom. When she passed last year, I thought grief would bring us together. Instead, Amber saw an opportunity. A few months later, I was informed, by Amber herself, smug as ever, that Grandma's apartment was hers. You shouldn't be living there anyway, she said. Not with your condition. That was the first I heard I supposedly had a drug problem. Back then, I had no idea where this would lead. But if you stick around till the end, you'll see why I stopped giving second chances. And hey, maybe you'll want to send it to someone who needs to hear it. I was in the break room at school when the envelope arrived. A manila packet with my full name on it, typed in some cold legal font. At first, I thought it was about student loans. Or worse, jury duty. Inside, a letter from a probate attorney. Pursuant to the execution of the last will and testament of Helen M. Draper. My breath caught. Grandma Helen. She had passed 3 months earlier, peacefully, in her sleep, just days after her 84th birthday. I hadn't been able to attend the reading of the will. The lawyer said everything was straightforward, and that copies would follow. This was the copy. I skimmed. My eyes landed on it. The apartment at 212 Brighton Avenue is hereby granted to Amber Draper, my sister. I stared at the sentence for a full minute, waiting for it to change. That apartment wasn't just real estate. It was home. My real home. Grandma had raised me there after Mom fell apart. I helped her fix the plumbing, painted the cabinets with her when I was 12. She used to joke, "You'll probably get married in this living room, Ratch." Amber never lived there. Barely visited. I sat down hard on the bench. I called the lawyer immediately. Straight to voicemail. I left a shaky message. "Hi. I just got the documents, and there has to be a mistake." Then I called Amber. She picked up on the second ring. "Oh, you got the letter?" Her voice was syrupy. Fake surprise. "Amber, what is this?" "Grandma told me. She promised. She said the apartment would be mine." Well, maybe she changed her mind. You know how Grandma got toward the end. Sentimental, sure, but not stupid. There was something smug in her tone. Too composed. She was enjoying this. "You never even liked her," I said, barely able to get the words out. Wow, that's rich coming from Miss Perfect. Maybe you should take some time to reflect. Let it go. It's just a place. Just a place. I hung up without another word. My hands were shaking. Not just from anger, from confusion. I remembered Grandma signing the will 2 years ago, and she told me flat out, "This place is yours, Ratch." Amber doesn't need a place. She needs a damn lesson. That night, I pulled out the old voicemail she'd left me after a fight. "You're so obsessed with being the favorite. What's it even matter? You'll lose anyway." Back then, I thought it was just a tantrum. Now, it felt like a prophecy. The next day, I showed up at the law office in person. I wanted to see the signature. I wanted to know. The receptionist blinked at me and said the will on file was final and legally sound. But when she printed the attachments for me to take home, something fell out. It was a scanned affidavit, stamped, signed, and notarized. It had my name. It also said, "Patient presents with ongoing opioid dependence, currently unfit to maintain sole residency in unsupervised housing." It was dated 2 months before Grandma's death, and it was the first time I heard I was a drug addict. I must have read that affidavit 20 times that night. Same cheap header, Allegheny Wellness and Recovery Center. Same signature at the bottom. Dr. Michael S. Lehrman, MD. Only, I'd never heard of him. Never been to that clinic. Never touched opioids in my life. The strongest thing I'd ever taken was ibuprofen and, once, Vicodin after my wisdom teeth surgery, and I didn't even finish the bottle. The more I stared at it, the more unreal it felt. Like someone had pasted my name onto someone else's nightmare. The next morning, I called the number listed on the affidavit. Disconnected. I Googled the clinic. Nothing. No Yelp page. No Street View. No state medical records. Just a basic landing page with a stock photo of a smiling nurse and no working links. The address? A UPS store on Penn Avenue. That's when it hit me like a slap to the face. It was fake. All of it. I showed the document to my school's counselor during lunch. Ms. Devon, a no-nonsense woman with horn-rimmed glasses who ran our mental health program. Her brow furrowed deep as she read it. Rachel, this clinic isn't in the state's licensed provider database. And that doctor doesn't have a valid DEA number. This looks forged. I blinked hard. What do I even do with that? You talk to a lawyer. Immediately. So I did. Back to the family lawyer, Mr. Kramer, the one who had handled Grandma's estate. I walked into his office holding a folder full of printouts, affidavits, emails. He was polite, professional, but I saw it. The moment he read the document, he winced. Where did you get this? It was attached to the revised will. The one where Amber got the apartment. He sat back slowly. This changes things. If this affidavit is fraudulent, the entire update to the will could be considered invalid. But why didn't you notice? I asked, sharper than I meant to. He cleared his throat. The will was brought in with full notarization. I had no reason to believe anything was falsified. Your grandmother's signature matched, and the medical document appeared legitimate on the surface. So anyone can walk in with a fake document and just steal a home? He didn't answer that. On my way out, I texted Mom. I hadn't told her yet. Her reply came quick. Amber said you'd do this. Rachel, if this is about jealousy, please stop. And if there is a drug problem, we can talk about it. I won't judge. I dropped the phone. That stung more than anything. It wasn't just that Amber forged a document. It was that everyone believed it. Because quiet people aren't allowed to defend themselves. Not when the pretty one cries and says, she's sick. She needs help. That night, I sat in my childhood room, staring at the recording app on my phone. I opened a folder I hadn't touched in 2 years, saved voicemails, old messages, random call snippets. And that's when I remembered. Amber had always bragged too loud. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up with a mug of cold tea and headphones, scrubbing through years of old recordings like a digital archaeologist digging for bones. Amber used to leave the wildest voicemails when she was drunk. Rants about exes, money mom. She'd brag, lie, confess things she didn't even realize were damning. Back then, I'd save them as ammo for arguments. You know, just in case. Now they felt like potential evidence. One file stood out. It was dated July 16, 2020, 1:38 a.m. Amber's voice crackled through the speaker, slurry and sarcastic. Honestly, if I forged a letter saying you were nuts, you'd probably thank me for thinking of you. You always take the high road. It's kinda pathetic. She laughed alone. The laugh of someone who doesn't believe in consequences. I sat there, frozen. That wasn't just some joke anymore. That was intent. Foreshadowing. Maybe even motive. I started tagging every recording with keywords. Amber drunk. Amber lying. Amber insulting mom. Amber says forgery. I ended up with 47 files. Most weren't useful, but a few? Pure gold. Like the one where she said, if I had your GPA and zero charm, I'd fake my own death out of embarrassment. Or, people believe what's convenient. If I said you were a junkie, guess who they believe? Not the library mouse. She wasn't wrong. And that made me sick. I backed everything up to Google Drive, then Dropbox, then 2 USBs. I hid one in a hollow book on my shelf, just in case. Then I bought a voice recorder. A tiny, discreet one that fit in my bra strap or coat pocket. If she wanted to frame me with fake papers, I'd frame her with her own damn words. The next week, I texted Amber. Can we talk? No lawyers. Just sisters. She replied within the hour. Fine, but I'm not changing the will. I didn't care about that anymore. I was playing a different game now. We met at a wine bar in Shadyside. Her choice, obviously. She showed up 15 minutes late in oversized sunglasses and a crop top with the word icon across it. Like she was auditioning for a reality show. I ordered you a rose, she said sweetly. I know you're not into cocktails. Not since the incident. I didn't rise to it. Just pressed record in my coat. You know this whole thing with the apartment, it really blindsided me. I said carefully. Well, she said, swirling her glass, it shouldn't have. Grandma did see your little situation. What situation? She leaned in with a smirk. Rachel, come on. You've always been so twitchy. Everyone saw it. I just helped her protect you from yourself. There it was. Almost rehearsed. Did she ever mention the affidavit to you? She paused. Then, not directly. I just know what was best. Best for who? Later, in the Uber home, I replayed her words. And smiled. I wasn't following Amber on Instagram anymore, but that didn't mean I didn't check her page. You don't unfollow someone like her. You surveil. She'd started calling the apartment my urban sanctuary. Posts of minimalist furniture, fake plants, and endless mirror selfies poured in. But one particular story caught my eye. It was a short clip, maybe 6 seconds. She stood in the kitchen, filming herself making coffee, panning to her new espresso machine like she was hosting an HGTV segment. Caption: blessed and caffeinated hot beverage nail polish #myplace #manifesting queen. Harmless enough. But my eye caught something on the counter behind her, just a blur. A single page, off to the side of the toaster. The header was barely visible, but the format looked familiar. I took a screenshot, zoomed in, boosted the contrast. There it was. Allegheny Wellness and Recovery Center. The same clinic listed on the forged affidavit. I felt the hairs on my neck stand up. She hadn't just faked a document. She'd printed multiple copies and left one on the kitchen counter like a receipt. What kind of criminal leaves evidence in frame? I called my friend Layla, who works as a freelance graphic designer and does social media forensic work for divorce attorneys on the side. Send me the image, she said, yawning. It was past midnight. I did. 10 minutes later, she called me back, fully awake. Ratch, that document is absolutely a mock-up. It uses a standard medical PDF template, stock fonts, no watermark. And that header? It's lifted from a therapy site in Arizona. I reverse image searched it. You're kidding. I'm not. Also, no footer, no legal disclaimers. It's basically a flyer pretending to be a diagnosis. That was confirmation. But I needed more than design analysis. I needed irrefutable fraud. So I ran a test. I went to the UPS store listed as the clinic address. The clerk recognized the name. Oh yeah, she said. Some lady used our mailbox rental service a few months ago. Sent some medical-looking stuff. I asked if she could confirm the renter's name. She smiled. I can't give out customer info, but let's just say, you and her have the same eyes. Amber had used a UPS mailbox under a fake clinic name. Probably printed the affidavit herself on her home computer. I wouldn't be surprised if she signed it using her left hand pretending to be Dr. Lehrman. The pieces were falling into place. Still, I needed her on record admitting it. Something undeniable. Not just insults or smugness. A verbal signature of guilt. And knowing Amber, she wouldn't be able to resist bragging. I just had to bait her the right way. I invited Amber to lunch at a boutique cafe in Lawrenceville. All pastel walls and overpriced avocado toast. Her kind of place. I texted, let's talk. I'm not trying to fight. Just want to clear the air. She replied with a heart emoji and, sure, but I'm not giving you the apartment, babe. That wasn't the point anymore. I arrived 10 minutes early and ordered a matcha latte I wouldn't drink. Slipped the voice recorder into the inside pocket of my purse and tested the mic level under the table. Crisp and clear. She walked in wearing high-waisted jeans, Chanel sunglasses, and enough fake confidence to choke a god. Oh, look at you, she said. All grown up and ready for war. I forced a smile. I'm just tired of the drama. We chatted. Well, she monologued about her journey as a homeowner and how much emotional labor it took to manifest a place like Grandma's apartment. I steered the conversation carefully. You know, I just can't wrap my head around Grandma changing the will like that. Especially with that medical affidavit attached. It doesn't feel like her. Amber tilted her head like a bored house cat. Maybe she was just smarter than you gave her credit for. You really think she believed I was a drug addict? Amber grinned. Ratch, perception is reality. You stress out over everything. You sleep like 3 hours a night, and you never drink. Honestly, you look like someone in recovery. Except I'm not. She took a sip of her green juice. It's not always about what's true. It's about what people think is true. I paused. So you think people believe the affidavit? Her smile twitched. Let's just say, no one's checking the credentials of a wellness center. You drop a stamp and a signature on a form, and boom, reality shifts. She was too proud of herself to notice the trap. I pushed one step further. Where did Grandma even get that letter? Did she go to that clinic herself? Amber leaned in close, her voice lower. Rachel, that woman barely left the apartment. Do you really think she handled that paperwork herself? And there it was. Not a confession exactly, but enough to plant a nail in the coffin. Because if Grandma didn't handle that paperwork, who did? Amber sat back, smug and satisfied. You always underestimate me. That's your problem. No, I said quietly. My problem was thinking you wouldn't go this far. She rolled her eyes. Whatever. You should move on. Maybe get help. You've got a lot of unresolved stuff. I smiled. Sure. I'll work on that. When I got home, I replayed the audio. Crystal clear. You drop a stamp and a signature on a form, and boom, reality shifts. That single line, said with pride, was enough. The apartment wasn't all she was going to lose. The next morning, I took a personal day. I wasn't calling in sick. I was calling in strategic. The plan was simple. Collect enough evidence to prove Amber forged a legal document, used it to alter Grandma's will, and committed fraud during a legal proceeding. I didn't need her to go to prison. I just needed a judge to see the truth. But if charges came with it? Bonus. First stop, the Pennsylvania Department of State's Licensing Board. I submitted a verification request for Dr. Michael S. Lehrman. No match. No license. No DEA number. Nothing. The guy didn't exist. Second stop, I filed a complaint with the Attorney General's office about a fraudulent medical provider, Allegheny Wellness and Recovery Center. I attached the affidavit, screenshots from Amber's Instagram, and a timeline of events. Third stop, a print shop downtown. I printed everything, 3 copies. The forged affidavit, side-by-side comparisons of the fake clinic's letterhead and the stock therapy site. The UPS mailbox rental agreement. I had Layla pull the public business license registration. Guess who filed it? Amber Draper. Voicemail transcripts. Screenshots of her social media post with the document in frame. And, most importantly, a written transcript of our cafe conversation. Everything went into labeled folders. Color-coded. Neatly clipped. My inner teacher rejoiced. That night, I called Lucas, my friend from college who now worked as a paralegal at a small litigation firm. He owed me a favor. I cashed it in. Hey, I said, I think I have a fraud case. Estate-related. It involves forgery, perjury, and possible identity falsification. There was a pause. Jesus, Ratch. What happened? I told him. All of it. By the time I finished, he said, this is more than a case. This is a trapdoor under her feet. He walked me through the next steps. Get the original will from Kramer's office, request a probate dispute hearing, and submit a formal petition with evidence of misconduct. He even helped me draft the cover letter, official, calm, and damning. The next day, I walked back into Kramer's office. He barely looked me in the eye. I'd like to submit a formal challenge to the last amendment to Helen Draper's will, I said, on grounds of fraudulent medical documentation and undue influence. He blinked. You have grounds. I handed over the folder. His fingers stopped turning pages when he hit the quote from the cafe. You drop a stamp and a signature on a form, and boom, reality shifts. That's Amber, I said. Unfiltered. He exhaled. Long, heavy. This could open a criminal investigation. I'm okay with that. He nodded. We'll schedule a hearing. Probate court. 2 weeks. I walked out into the sunshine, stunned. It was finally happening. She wasn't untouchable. For the first time in months, I felt taller. And I hadn't even revealed my final card yet. The court date was set for April 3rd. 2 weeks away. I marked it on my calendar in red ink and circled it twice. The kind of dramatic gesture Grandma would have loved. Kramer filed the petition without delay. The official title, Motion to Invalidate Testamentary Addendum based on fraudulent medical documentation. Real lawyer speak. But it meant one thing. We were going to probate court. I spent the next 10 days walking a tightrope between work and war prep. By day, I helped third graders with fractions. By night, I combed through every possible hole in Amber's story. I wanted the judge to see it the way I saw it. Not just fraud, but manipulation. Arrogance. Entitlement weaponized. 3 days before the hearing, I got an email from Kramer. We received a response from Ms. Draper's counsel. She is denying all wrongdoing. Of course she was. But Amber had never been good at staying quiet when she felt cornered. Sure enough, that night, I got a voicemail from her. I can't believe you're doing this. Over a stupid apartment? Are you serious? Grandma would be ashamed. This is why no one trusts you. You make everything a drama. Grow up. I saved the voicemail. Then transcribed it. Then smiled. She sounded rattled. Panicked. Like someone who knew the rope was fraying. I met with Kramer the day before the hearing to go over our presentation. He laid it out like a trial lawyer prepping for battle. We'll open with the original will, clean, uncontested, with you as the sole heir of the apartment. Then we'll introduce the contested version and the affidavit as the pivot point. That's where we strike. He pointed to the printed copy of the fake document. Once we discredit this, the whole thing falls apart. You sure she'll deny involvement? She already has. And you have the recordings? All backed up, labeled, time-stamped. His face softened for a moment. You've done your homework. I'm a teacher, I said. This is what we do. He laughed, genuinely, for the first time in weeks. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not out of fear, out of clarity. I played the cafe recording one more time, just to hear the line. Let's just say, no one's checking the credentials of a wellness center. Then I shut my laptop. Amber had always treated truth like a game. A flexible thing. Bendable. She forgot some of us played the long game. The next morning, I wore a navy dress, black flats, and my grandmother's brooch, the one with the faded blue sapphire. Not for luck. For memory. Outside the courthouse, I paused. Amber had taken my home, my reputation, even my mother's trust. But what she didn't know, she had handed me the weapon herself, one smug sentence at a time. Amber arrived 20 minutes late, tottering in 6-inch heels and a blazer she probably thought screamed professional. Her lawyer, a thin man in a flashy blue suit, carried a single folder. Light. Unprepared. I had 3. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes and a clipped tone, didn't waste time. This is a petition to contest the amended testamentary document in the matter of Helen M. Draper, she began. Ms. Rachel Draper alleges that the modification awarding real property to Ms. Amber Draper is based on fraudulent documentation. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Kramer said, calm and precise. Amber was already fidgeting. We started with the original will. Kramer walked through the date, the notary, Grandma's clean handwriting, and the clearly listed heir, me. Then came the contested will, same structure, but with one glaring addition, the affidavit from Allegheny Wellness and Recovery Center. Kramer slid the document into evidence and handed a copy to the judge. Your Honor, we submit that this affidavit is fraudulent. The medical provider does not exist, the signature is fabricated, and the address traces back to a mailbox rental facility. The judge raised an eyebrow. Do you have proof? Yes, ma'am. Multiple layers. He presented the license search results, the image analysis, the website metadata. Then he paused. And we also have an audio recording, obtained with consent, in which Ms. Amber Draper makes several statements indicating knowledge of and involvement in the creation of this false affidavit. Amber's head snapped toward us. What recording? Kramer didn't even flinch. May I play the clip? The judge nodded. From a small speaker, Amber's voice filled the courtroom. Let's just say, no one's checking the credentials of a wellness center. Do you really think Grandma handled that paperwork herself? There was a long silence. You could hear the hum of the lights. Amber stood up. That's taken out of context. The judge held up a hand. You'll have your turn, Ms. Draper. Her lawyer whispered something, but it was too late. Her face was flushing, lips twitching with the effort not to explode. Kramer continued. Additionally, the clinic was registered using Ms. Draper's own name on a UPS mailbox rental agreement. He placed the signed form on the evidence table. That did it. Amber broke. This is insane, she said, voice rising. She's just mad I got the apartment. It's not my fault Grandma trusted me more. The judge leaned forward. Ms. Draper, did you create or assist in the creation of this affidavit? I don't remember, she stammered. Maybe I helped file it. But that doesn't mean That's enough. The gavel came down once, sharp and final. I am suspending the amended testamentary clause pending formal review. Based on the evidence, I find sufficient grounds to believe fraud occurred. The apartment will revert to the original heir, Rachel Draper, effective immediately. Amber let out a stunned, shallow laugh, like she couldn't believe it. I could, because I believed in the truth the whole time. And for once, the truth was louder than her lies. Amber stormed out of the courthouse like she was leaving a bad casting call. Her heels clacked down the marble hallway. Echoing through the silence, she didn't know how to fill. I didn't follow. I didn't even look at her. Kramer patted my arm as we packed up the folders. You did more than most people ever manage. You didn't just win. You exposed her. The word stuck with me, exposed, because that's exactly what happened next. 2 days later, I received a letter from the court, official reinstatement as sole heir to the apartment at 212 Brighton Avenue. Legal ownership. Clean title. No contest. But that wasn't the end. Apparently, when the judge flagged the affidavit as fraudulent, the court was obligated to notify the DA's office. And when the DA got a look at it, the fake clinic, the forged name, the UPS box, the recordings, they launched a formal investigation. Amber was charged with forgery, perjury, and submission of false evidence in probate court. The news made it to the local outlets in less than a week. Not front-page headlines, but big enough to trend on Twitter for a day. Local influencer caught forging addiction record to steal grandmother's home. That was the headline. All those brand deals she loved to brag about, gone. Her management agency dropped her within 48 hours. A makeup brand she'd just collaborated with posted a statement. We have no tolerance for fraud or manipulation. The campaign with Ms. Draper has been canceled effective immediately. She posted one of those black square apologies. You know the type. I made some mistakes. I'm working on myself. Please respect my healing journey. The comments were brutal. You faked an addiction report. That's not a mistake, it's a crime. People die from this stuff. And you used it to steal property. Healing journey? How about jail journey? Meanwhile, Mom called me. She didn't apologize. Not directly. Just left a voicemail that said, I guess I should have asked more questions. I didn't know what to believe. But you always were the strong one, Ratch. I hope you're okay. I didn't call back. She picked her side when it counted. When Amber was holding the pen. And that's the thing about trust. You don't get to keep it after a coin toss. I spent the next weekend back at Grandma's apartment. My apartment. I walked every room. Touched the kitchen counter. Opened the linen closet she used to hide Christmas presents in. Amber had left most of her cheap decorations behind. I boxed them all up and donated them. The air was mine again. And when I repainted the living room, I chose the exact dusty blue Grandma once pointed to in a catalog. She'd said, it's calming. Feels like dignity. Amber had tried to turn that room into a showroom. I turned it back into a home. Amber now rents a shoebox studio with no balcony, no washer-dryer, and no followers left who care. The influencer gigs dried up the minute the charges hit. Last I heard, she was trying to sell sponsored detox teas again. Ironic, considering the lie she built everything on. She still claims she meant well. Still spins it like a victim story. But in court, under oath, she had nothing to say. No tears. No excuses. Just silence and a revoked inheritance. And me? I sleep in the same bedroom I grew up in. But now, with clean walls, quiet peace, and a deed in my name. Sometimes I sit on the windowsill with tea and think about how fast lies crumble when you hit record. I lost a sister, but I got my home back. And I never have to question who I am, or prove I'm clean, ever again.